it was my low moment sih, karena gue nggak dapet
Hmm.
PDP, kayaknya selang 2 minggu gue nggak dapet Wharton dulu, terus gue nggak dapet Harvard, terus gue nggak dapet.
Ah,
Jadi kayak
yeah,
every two
that
weeks or
hurts.
every few weeks kayak I got a bad news.
I think what happens with emotion adalah kadang-kadang kita tuh overestimate how long it will last. For example, misalnya
Hmm.
kita aiming for promotion atau kita aiming to get like a dream job. Kita kira kita bakal senang, tapi mungkin senangnya nggak tahu ya. In my case, gue senang-senang kayak gitu kayak seminggu. Karena habis itu ya udah kayak gue gitu kan.
Welcome to Follow Your Flow Podcast. Kita membantu lifelong learner untuk berproses menuju life model yang lebih optimal dan sustainable. Di sini, kita akan belajar dari banyak sumber, mulai dari lifelong learner yang kita interview, sampai insight yang gue dan Mbak Ika dapat dari buku, artikel, podcast, maupun hasil refleksi pribadi kami. Di akhir setiap episode, lo akan mendapatkan science-backed pragmatic step yang bisa membantu lo untuk mentransformasi hidup lo. Hope you enjoy this episode.
Alright. Halo Steph.
Halo, halo.
Wah, seru nih. Jadi teman-teman gue super excited untuk introduce uh, guest kita pada hari ini. Jadi guest kita hari ini spesial banget karena dia adalah kolik gue ketika gue memulai karir 6 tahun yang lalu. Jadi kita waktu itu join at the same day. Kita went through the first kayak transition dari kuliah ke kerja bareng-bareng, had a lot of deep conversations when we work late at the office. And, based on that journey, we became more than just colleague karena kita share like a lot of things gitu kan throughout that moment. Professionally, Stefanus nih punya reputasi yang, wah gila sih gue, I don't know, at least gue gak tahu orang lain lagi ya. Mungkin ada yang mengaccomplish ini, tapi very, very few people. Jadi dia sudah punya working experience di MBB. MBB itu adalah sebuah singkatan dari top 3 management consulting firm, yaitu McKinsey, BCG, and Bain. Ini tuh kayak bener-bener kayak nirvana of management consulting gitu kan. Jadi Steph itu dulu intern di BCG, terus started his career in McKinsey, dan sekarang dia kerja di Bain. Right. So kayak we can ask a lot of consulting questions to Steph gitu kan, karena gue tahu juga bahwa a lot of people wants to be in consulting karena prospek karirnya. Right. On the other side, Steph juga punya weekend project yang namanya Career Lab gitu. Jadi di Career Lab itu adalah sebuah platform yang membantu job seeker to land their dream job dengan mengimprove their CV. And we can also talk sebenarnya kenapa nih Stefanus nih kayak kurang kerjaan apa ya bikin Career Lab gitu kan. Karena when I was a consultant, gue udah gak ada waktu lagi gitu. Gue kayak punya side project. So there must be a reason behind that. So Steph, I'm super, super excited to chat with you today.
Thank you, Vic. Very excited sebenarnya, kayak gue juga salah satu pendengar setia ya Follow Your Flow. And actually a lot of the posts make me thinking sih, kayak make me reflect to myself kayak how to apply certain framework atau kayak certain quotes that you put there to my life. And then thank you. It's actually very energizing during the week.
Thank you. Wow. So, mungkin kita mulai dengan pertanyaan yang mungkin banyak orang udah suka tanya kali ya. So, ini adalah apa sih yang bikin lo tuh spend significant amount of your career di consulting?
Sebenarnya sih kalau jawaban personalnya cebur ya. Gue cebur. I think one thing that I realize about myself, gue tuh orangnya bosenan gitu. Gue suka sesuatu yang terus dynamic dan berubah. That's actually quite funny karena sebenarnya gue jurusan accounting, and maybe for those who done accounting before, kerjanya lumayan monoton, and I don't really like it. Jadi sebenarnya dari beberapa internship experience yang gue punya di UI dulu, gue merasa maybe working in accounting is not my just path. Gue bukan kayaknya nggak bakal enjoy karena gue memang lumayan monoton waktu itu dari pengalaman gue. Jadi gue pengen lihat sebenarnya apa sih yang bisa per project, dan kayak consulting adalah salah satunya. Jadi dari situ gue merasa kayak consulting itu fun gitu, berangkat dari situ. Tapi ya of course setelah gue masuk ke consulting, ternyata banyak banget loh yang I find very enjoyable gitu. Mungkin ya sama exposure ya ke different industry atau kalau misalnya not only that tapi juga function. Kalau lo tipe orang yang pengen explore many different things, you haven't really known sebenarnya tuh maunya apa sih, bagian yang industrinya apa, functionnya apa, what you're good at. Menurut gue consulting is the will expedite you to get to that phase dimana kayak you know what you want. Kalau buat sampai gue sekarang, I kind of know what I want compared to 6 years ago. Maybe, but maybe not as crystallized as I want to be. Jadi kayak apa ya, consulting kan tipenya project gitu ya, average 2-3 bulan. Apalagi ketika lo masih junior, ketika dulu kita junior, we do whatever kan, lo bisa kerjain mining, lo bisa kerjain banking, lo bisa kerjain telco, you can do many different things. And maybe you did all of them in 1 year. Jadi menurut gue kayak kuliah aja sih menurut gue ya, jadi banyak banget. Yang kedua sih menurut gue exposure to senior level sih. Karena end of the day lu tuh mau jadi apa sih? Kalau gue selalu bilang mungkin bukan jadi CEO atau apa, tapi I wanna be someone who is leading either my company, my project, or my division or something else. Tapi I don't want to lead something. I want to own something. And I think the key to that, I mean, in my opinion, is to have the thinking like them. Kayak jadi CEO tuh kayak gimana sih mikirnya gitu. Kayak kalau lo dapat satu problem, how do they think? How do they solve it? I think that's very important. And consulting, again, in my experience, I think that's the only or one of the few industry yang give you the exposure directly to the CEO of the client. Yeah, bisa in the same meeting with the client, with the CEO of the client, which is one of the biggest company in Indonesia. I think it was an honor for me. Gue masih undergrad, masih umur 22 gitu. I can be at the same room with all the C-level in one company, like big companies.
Yeah.
For me, it's something. Okay, I can see, gini ya mereka caranya. Gini ya how they negotiate with their supervising. Jadi menurut gue itu juga menarik gitu. Just to build into exposure to the CEO level, consultingnya juga you are managing client. Something yang menurut gue skill yang penting banget juga dari khususnya buat fresh grad. Kalau buat gue dulu ya buat fresh grad penting sih karena at the end of the day how you manage someone, again, if you are going to be a leader and you have direct reports, you need to shape up that skill even early in your career juga kan, kayak gimana you communicate with client, gimana minta data ke client, gimana make client do something for you, gimana kalau lu punya inisiatif, make sure that the client have the buy-in in the initiative and then do it juga. But that's a very very good skill and negotiation skills sih, menurut gue itu juga penting. Of course ada lah yang kayak problem solving, structuring, making pretty slides, presentation skills. But I think for this one, it's not really specific to consulting. I'm sure that all the good startups in Indo juga sekarang pasti juga expose you to problem solving, expose you to make slides, expose you to presenting, dan sebagainya sih. Tapi the first two, menurut gue, itu yang make me realistic. As long as I still learn from those exposures to the industry, different function, and to the executive level, and then as long as I can still learn from that, I think consulting is still sexy to me sih.
Wow. Kalau gue boleh recap, Steph, dari yang lo bilang, I think number one adalah exposure to different things, right? Secondly, itu adalah leadership exposure. Right. Yang ketiga, itu adalah communication and collaboration skill yang diasah terus-terusan karena lo ketemu dengan klien, right? Dan gue mau highlight sebenarnya menurut gue ini adalah skill-skill yang sangat-sangat valuable gitu kan after transitioning juga from consulting to the industry, right? Kayak I think the first one yang kayak tadi lo bilang yaitu tentang kayak exposure to different things. I think sebenarnya yang gue tangkap dipelajari di dunia consulting itu kan adalah the problem solving skill, right? Jadi kayak ketika lo punya framework yang kencang, lo sebenarnya bisa menerapkan itu di berbagai domain. So lo akan menjadi orang yang lebih versatile, right? And also like the leadership thing is also, tadi kan lo bilang bahwa belajar untuk kayak tahu leader itu mikirnya kayak gimana. One thing that also, struck me when I was a consultant juga sebenarnya adalah benar-benar kayak adulting proses gue tuh di speed up gitu loh. Ya, lo ngerasa gak sih? Jadi kayak misalnya kalau meeting, decknya harus bagus, terus kita present dengan very confident, right? Dan biarpun
Right.
kita tuh kayak masih muda banget, kayak we learn how to manage kayak way more senior people. Itu menurut gue adulting process in the workplace-nya kena banget.
Betul. And it's also shade up your confidence level juga kan.
Exactly.
Karena ya mana ya kalau lu tanya sama orang yang udah do the same thing for the last 30-40 years, terus dia tanya soal konten yang very content heavy, my first reaction gue pasti nervous sih.
Iya. Yeah.
Nervous banget. Tapi maybe the first 5 lu bakal super nervous. The next 5 you will get less nervous tapi masih nervous.
Yeah.
Tapi ya you will good at it at some point.
Iya, yeah, totally. Nah, jadi kalau tadi kan sebenarnya itu ada skill-skill yang lo dapet gitu ya di consulting. Nah, gue penasaran sih. Sebenarnya kalau misalnya ada orang gitu kan, tapi di luar consulting, tapi ingin belajar skill-skill tersebut, what would be your go-to tips for them?
Sebenarnya kalau misalnya mau belajar, ini satu hal yang menurut gue masih agak susah ya. Kalau di antara yang tadi lu mention yang 3 itu, which is kayak different industry and sector, terus exposure to executive, dan yang ketiga adalah yang collaboration with client, dan mungkin kalau gue bisa tambahin yang keempat adalah problem solving, terus presentation dan sebagainya. Menurut gue kalau di luar consulting, yang keempat ini gampang.
I see.
Pasti di luar consulting juga banyak. Tapi kalau yang 3 ini menurut gue kan sedikit lebih tricky.
Oke.
Ada sih caranya. Jadi ada kan maksudnya beberapa organisasi. Kalau bahkan yang buat yang masih undergrad, sekarang mulai banyak student consulting club. Maksudnya student consulting club itu lu dapat, kalau lu join beberapa tahun misalnya, you get exposure to different industry and function.
Yeah.
Of course not as intense, but you get some.
Yeah.
You get exposure to the client juga, and most likely juga senior level client gitu. Karena student consulting club, siapa sih kliennya kebanyakan startup juga. Jadi you can deal with the C level maybe, atau kayak very senior level in the startup juga kan. Jadi I think that's one sih buat anak-anak undergrad. Kalau buat yang udah kerja, this gets tricky ya. Bukan karena platform yang nggak ada, lu juga nggak punya waktu gitu untuk all this. Pastinya ya bisa lah baca eksternal dan sebagainya, tapi menurut gue akan sedikit lebih terbatas daripada kalau misalnya masih undergrad.
Got it. Hipotesis yang gue punya, I think student consulting club is a very practical way to do that. Apalagi kalau misalnya di MBA kan, soalnya kan banyak ya kayak belajar consulting gitu kan, right? I think another way, dan gue sendiri juga nggak bisa jamin ini 100% karena gue juga mendapatnya dari sumber lain. I think one of the other way adalah dengan join early stage startup gitu. Karena I think the exposure to different things-nya dapat gitu. Mungkin nggak nyampe cross industry ya, tapi maksudnya kayak bisa ntar ngerjain marketing, besoknya ngerjain operations, besoknya ngerjain recruiting gitu kan. Jadi kayak wide variety-nya dapat banget. Leadership exposure-nya dapat banget, kayak karena misalnya kerja sama founder, or even beberapa teman gue dilibatkan di fundraising gitu kan. Jadi kayak bisa dapat exposure ke investor, padahal masih muda. And collaboration-nya juga dapat, karena akan banyak kolaborasi juga kan sama, maybe kadang-kadang sama vendor atau sama partner, right? So there is that. Although mungkin drawback-nya adalah tidak disusun dengan lingkungan yang structured, right?
I agree. I mean, if you put it that way, menurut gue emang early stage startup, especially early stage startup lah, menurut gue exposure itu bagus banget sih. Dan even lebih bagusnya adalah one thing yang menurut gue consulting maybe still lacking of, we are good problem solver.
Yeah.
Tapi knowing the problem is only, I don't know, 10-20% of the solution. The real solution is actually the implementation gitu. Kalau problemnya itu perlu implementasinya 2 tahun, ya yang paling pentingnya 2 tahunnya itu, bukan kayak the 1 week when you solve the problem gitu menurut gue. Jadi kayak even joining an early stage startup will get you both ways kan, kayak you get the problem solving, maybe not as structured as consulting, tapi at the same time you also get exposure how to implement your solution, which really gives you 2 benefits. First, you get exposure to implementation. Second, you can fine-tune your problem solving. Karena, again, another thing yang menurut gue consulting itu susah adalah, we solve the problem, tapi kita nggak tahu nih feedback dari implementation-nya apa. So we don't know whether the problem is solved or not. So we don't know whether our problem-solving method is right or wrong. But if you get that feedback mechanism by doing the implementation, I think it also shape up your problem solving skills juga gitu kan.
Totally agree to that. Though gue juga after experiencing both, Steph, I think I can say bahwa to some extent emang yang what works is when we can find the balance sih. Karena I also find a trend kayak di beberapa teman yang kerja di startup and including myself, kadang-kadang kita terlalu biased to action. So we are so impatient in formulating the strategi, terus kita jadi jalan dulu, right? And sometimes itu solve the problem. Sometimes it's just oh shit, we are actually solving the wrong problem. Jadi kayak sebenarnya ini tuh dua hal yang kayak kalau ketemu tuh kayak klik oke banget gitu, kayak finding the right problem and then actually solving that problem gitu kan. Jadi maybe my hypothesis adalah mungkin kayak the best of both worlds kalau dalam hal exposure itu adalah join ke early stage startup di mana foundernya adalah ex-management consultant. Maybe.
Gue belum pernah sih. I don't know yet, but maybe. Yeah.
Maybe, right?
Yeah. True.
Right. So, okay. I think that's, like a great discussion around kayak orang-orang yang kalau misalnya pengen belajar skill consulting, tapi unfortunately belum dapat kesempatan di consulting, so they are still a way to learn about it, right? Dan my next question adalah kalau ada orang yang pengen masuk consulting firm, what would be your top 3 tips for them? It's more like your default tips kalau ada orang yang nanya, Kak, gimana caranya kalau gue mau masuk consulting gitu?
Ini top 3 tips yang gue selalu kasih sih. Pertama ada prepare early, karena ada orang yang dengan beberapa mock interview they can got in, tapi other people they need more than 50. I know someone who did 200 mock interviews. And at the end he didn't get it.
Wow.
Tapi preparation itu menurut gue prepare early itu penting supaya you know where is your level at right. And that comes to my second tips adalah kayak have a plan. Karena kadang-kadang kita nggak punya plan aja kayak oh ya udah gue punya 2 Facebook ya udah gue baca. No, you should have a plan. Kayak mau tiap hari spend saya 1 jam untuk mock interview with yourself. Tapi setiap minggu at least you do 2 or 3 mock interview with someone else, and with your peers gitu ya. And then 1 mock interview with a consultant or someone who is in consulting. So that's the structure, right? Okay, tiap hari ada, tiap minggu ada 2-3 kali sama peers, 1 kali sama ex consultant atau consulting.
Wow.
Jadi that structure will really help you. Not only that, the plan will also, of course, you are familiar with this. Misalnya, minggu ini gue mau bahasnya industrinya apa? Kalau buat for myself, minggu depan bahas industri apa atau functional. The third thing that you can plan adalah have a journal gitu in planning ya. Karena kadang-kadang menurut gue orang-orang tuh suka do interview atau mock interview itu nggak ada jurnalnya kayak misalnya gue habis mock interview nih 1 kali gue dibilang you need to develop your math tapi karena gue nggak journaling itu ya udah thank you, good feedback I'll work on it tapi when you work on it if you don't have a journal nanti lo harus lihat trendnya gitu udah interview ini gue work on math and then maybe the next 2-3 days I'll work on math the next mock interview gue harus bilang ke dia sebelumnya I got feedback on math, can you take a look at my math? Nice. Jadi kayak you tick the box menurut gue. Kadang-kadang ya saking banyak feedbacknya you don't know which to focus on and you need to remember that everyone will give feedback. Even antara gue sama lu, if we do mock interview with someone else gitu ya, we might have same or we might have different feedback.
Yeah.
For the same quality people.
Exactly.
Karena different case dan sebagainya gitu kan. Dan jadi it depends on you on how you want to plan it. Which feedback that you want to work on, which feedback that you think no this is not relevant. Karena ini cuma gara-gara case ini aja nih gue jadi kena sebelumnya nggak ada feedback. So you need to own it. Don't make other people told you gitu kayak lu harus siap ini gitu. Tapi kayak lu yang harus own the end-to-end process in terms of planning. Kadang-kadang ya kalau lu nggak ada planningnya dan feedback apa hari ini nggak belajar apa-apa besok mock interview lagi ngapain cuma mock interview is only when you really develop something and learn something from your previous mock interview. That comes my last tips adalah so planning banyak nih. Yang pertama kan kayak prepare early, yang kedua planning. Planningnya itu bisa plan dari structure-nya, schedule-nya, sampai yang terakhir adalah have a journal. Yang terakhir adalah networking sih, menurut gue itu juga penting. This is related to the planning, of course. Yang gue lihat ya, dulu kalau undergrad banyak orang merasa kayak, you are my competitor gitu. Gue nggak mau interview sama lo. And I think that's the wrong way to see it. Karena Pertama, emang semua consulting firm itu they are looking for people. If you are good, you are good. If you are not, you are not. And actually the only way to make you better adalah having mock interviews with people. And your peers will be the best person karena mereka juga lagi prepare. Yeah, network with people, with your peers, sama juga sama yang consulting juga sih. Itu sama tips.
Wah, seru. So prep early, have a plan, and network, right?
Yep.
Tadi gue pengen menjelaskan terminologi juga, kayak assuming misalnya di call ini ada yang kurang familiar juga dengan consulting recruitment process. Jadi sebenarnya kayak management consulting recruitment process itu, prosesnya itu unik. Karena di proses interviewnya itu kita ditanya bukan sekedar kayak tell me about yourself, apa kelebihan lo, apa kekurangan lo. Tapi kita ditanya tentang business case. Jadi kita ditanya tentang kayak, oke, kalau misalnya ada sebuah perusahaan manufacturing yang sedang mengalami kerugian, apa yang harus perusahaan ini lakukan? Misalnya kayak gitu. Jadi kita diajak buat mikir dan yang dilihat itu adalah thought prosesnya kita. Makanya tadi beberapa kali Stefanus ngomong tentang mock interview, which itu artinya adalah kita kayak simulasi interview sama orang lain. Dan gue nggak tahu seberapa common practice ini buat yang non-consulting gitu kan. Karena mungkin again variasinya terlalu banyak, tapi buat consulting preparation ini salah satu metode paling efektif. Tapi tadi yang gue suka banget dari yang Stefanus bilang adalah ketika kita mau mock interview, kita juga perlu do our homework dulu gitu. Kayak tadi deh, one tips yang mau gue single out dari yang Stefanus bilang itu adalah having a journal. Yaitu kayak misalnya lo habis practice, lo catat kekurangan lo apa, atau apa yang mau lo improve. Jadi ketika berikutnya lo mock interview, lo tahu that you actually want to improve that thing gitu kan.
Right.
I really like that advice by the way.
Yeah.
Really like it.
Remember that the person yang gue bilang kayak udah 200 mock interview, gue langsung bilang ke dia, your strategy, I don't think that's the right strategy, karena mock interview back to back semua. Dan ya ngapain itu lu habis dari mock interview ini ke mock interview yang lain. The quality will be the same, sama aja. Gitu. Mendingan kayak save that, only do fewer. Ya gue gak tahu harus do berapa, tapi make sure that you work on the feedback gitu sih.
Agree. And plus one to that, waktu gue nge-reflect to my own journey juga, kadang-kadang let's say misalnya kelemahan gue di math gitu ya, di beberapa kali gitu. Ya mungkin habis itu solusi berikutnya adalah jangan mock interview dulu. Ya work on the math dulu, karena working on math kan gak necessarily butuh mock interview kan. Karena cuma kadang-kadang kita kayak segitunya butuh ditemenin atau kayak butuh dibimbing, padahal sebenarnya that's not what we need. What we need adalah sit down, fix our math gitu kan. Atau misalnya kalau waktu itu kayak gue beberapa kali pas lagi mock interview, gue gak menemukan framework yang tepat, ya udah berarti mungkin gue mesti work on the framework dulu sebelum gue go to another mock interview, right?
Yeah. And another way to do it adalah kayak your network is limited, right? Lu gak mungkin punya 200 orang, ya mungkin sih, tapi
mungkin
maybe for some people only. Kayak, gue pengen cuma tahu yang kerja di consulting berapa, 5 orang. And then I will not recommend to do more than 2 mock interviews with the same person. The third mock interview, it will be biased. Orang tuh bakal tahu kayak lu tuh kayak gimana interviewnya, jadi bakal bias. So only do 2. Berarti lu punya berapa? Kalau gue kayak 5 kali 2, 10. Ya, it's only limited mock interview that you can do with the consultant misalnya. Dan make the best out of it. Ya, make sure lu ke mock interview itu prepare, udah kayak interview beneran gitu. Nggak kayak, lu mau dapat bimbingan aja nih sama dia. Kalau menurut bimbingan, menurut gue, ya do it with your friends, okay, do it for yourself dulu, kayak be conscious on what are the things that you still need to develop.
Got it.
Daripada nanti lu udah sama konsultan, terus kayak konsultannya ngerasa, ternyata lu gak siap banget. Nanti your confidence level will drop like crazy.
Ya. Make sense. Dan sebenarnya tuh widen tipsnya Steph ini, karena mungkin yang denger di sini gak necessarily lagi mau apply for consulting. Tapi menurut gue, owning your own learning journey itu tuh applicable buat any roles, any jobs, any habits. Let's say misalnya kayak based on your performance review di kantor, misalnya lo dapat feedback tentang communication skill. Gitu. Jadi instead of misalnya kayak lo datang ke, lo ngomong sama manajer lo berikutnya, atau lo samperin orang, gue minta feedback dong gitu. Kan kadang-kadang sebenarnya orang tuh pengen lo memberikan feedback. Cuma kayak ketika lo nanyanya, minta feedback dong, kayak, which part? Tapi, iya gak sih? Tapi kayak ketika lo datang dan bilang kayak, hey, gue kan bentar lagi mau present. Dan karena lo akan ada di meeting itu, tolong ya observe gimana presentation skill gue. Terutama karena kemarin pas di performance review, gue dikasih feedback kalau presentation skill gue tuh nggak bagus gitu.
Yeah.
Kebayang kan kayak kalau kayak gitu tuh kayak quality of feedbacknya akan kayak
bagus banget, betul. Sebenarnya another thing to do it ya sebenarnya. Kalau gue kan emang orangnya lumayan conscious. Dan well that's good and bad, but that's not the discussion. Karena kalau gue mau minta feedback ke orang, biasanya gue langsung bilang kayak exactly what you did. Sebelum misalnya gue present, sekarang kan gue baru mulai present lagi klien. Gue bakal bilang, okay, can you take an observation and let me know what's the feedback. Kan ketika mereka udah mau kasih feedback, gue akan bilang dulu, this is my observation, let me know if it's wrong, right or wrong. Jadi gue kasih tahu dulu observation about me from myself. Ya mereka bisa agree or disagree, it's fine. Tapi I just gue mau latih juga to be conscious of myself. Bener gak sih yang gue pikir kayak gini? Kalau ternyata yang gue pikir of myself tuh udah sejalan sama orang, then it's easier for me to take feedback, to give feedback and take feedback from myself. Gitu sih. Ya biasanya kalau misalnya feedback session, gue selalu bilang kayak, okay, bisa ada 3 areas. Observation gue terhadap diri gue kayak gini. And I'll be very honest gitu, gue mana yang menurut gue masih kurang. And then let me know whether that's right.
Yeah. Wow, that's so powerful. Karena apa ya, maybe that's one of the thing yang gue take for granted sih, Steph. Karena kayak I think in consulting it was very very natural, right? Dan kayaknya itu kayak semua orang diajarin cara ngasih feedback, terus kayak making feedback as part of the culture gitu kan. Jadi kayak ketika keluar dari consulting, that's not what comes naturally to people gitu. Itu hal yang muncul di situasi gue gitu kan. Tapi that's why we discuss about this publicly supaya kayak a lot of people are exposed, whether or not mau di-apply apa enggak. I think it's a personal choice gitu kan. Tapi at least gue, dan mungkin if I can say on behalf of you find it useful gitu kan to ask like feedback.
Betul. Right? Mungkin satu hal yang gue tadi nggak ngomong sih, kenapa gue mulai consulting, karena culture-nya juga ya. Gue nggak tahu apakah gue suka belajar atau apa, tapi kayak gue suka gitu culture yang gue dapat feedback nih, kayak I can improve about it gitu. Jadi first of all, you know that people care what they focus. I think a very good culture. Nggak kayak yaudah kalau lu jangan jelek, yaudah gue nggak peduli. Nanti aja sampai gue pecat. Nggak kayak gitu kan. Kayak they want you to success gitu. Jadi they really care and genuinely care. I mean, at least all my supervisors were genuinely care for me, and then kayak feedbacknya bukan yang kritik. Lu jelek banget sih, enggak gitu. Ya dia akan fokus, okay, these are the things yang menurut gue you did great. These are the things that from your greatness you can bring it even further. These are the things yang mungkin lu mau explore to start doing. And I found, of course, some feedback session I feel shit after that. Tapi a lot of the feedback session that I had, I feel great about setelah itu kayak, oh ternyata banyak juga loh yang hal-hal yang gue mungkin nggak sadar I did great, tapi some other people thought that, oh, actually we did great on this. Gitu sih. So I think that's a very good culture for my own personal and professional development.
Yeah, totally. Dan menurut gue the point of saying this is not buat bikin orang kayak, oh, berarti kalau nggak masuk consulting nggak bisa ya. So justru yang pengen gue challenge dari teman-teman yang mendengar di sini adalah knowing there is some of the component of working in consulting. How can we emulate that in our environment? Gitu kan. Karena bisa aja kita bisa memulai culture itu di tim kita gitu. Kita talk misalnya kayak, hey, gue ngedengerin nih si Stefanus diwawancara, terus dia ngomong bahwa di consulting ada culture gini dan bagus. Mungkin kita bisa consider adopt ini di tim kita. Something like that. Gitu.
Menurut gue I will definitely challenge si kayak the feedback culture. Menurut gue itu lebih ke arah orang, I'm not being racist, tapi kayak even gue sebagai orang Indonesia, ketika awal-awal gue di feedback culture itu, gue merasa kayak, oh gue dikritisin nih, oh I'm not doing a good job nih, oh besok gue dipecat nih. Tapi sebenarnya it's not that feedback yang gue dengar sebelumnya, feedback is a gift from someone who really cares about you and genuinely cares about your development. Jadi I think that's the mindset that we need to change. And then once you change that mindset, you can easily implement that in wherever it is.
Oh exactly. Oh gue mungkin bisa plus 100 dengan yang lo bilang gitu. Cool. So gue mau shift gear and talk a bit, still on the consulting subject gitu kan. Tapi yang pengen gue tanya, dan mungkin lo dapet pertanyaan, gue nggak tahu apakah gue orang pertama yang menanyakan ini, tapi mungkin udah banyak orang yang nanya gitu. Because you have experience MBB gitu kan, McKinsey, BCG, and Bain. Apa sih kayak persamaan dan perbedaan yang lo observe based on your experience?
I think you have to caveat a bit ya. experience gua itu di MBB, pertama I joined the firm, the three firms in many different phases of my life. BCG ketika gue bahkan belum lulus, McKinsey ketika gue baru lulus, and then Bain ketika gue udah lulus MBA. Gitu ya. Jadi different phases of my life. Second, those three juga different in terms of size. I think right now, as far as I know, in terms of number of employees, McKinsey is the biggest in Indonesia, followed by BCG and Bain after that. So that will affect my experience. Yang ketiga, I joined different client and also different team as well. So I think these three benar-benar akan mempengaruhi experience gue. Tapi so far, I think my experience out of the three, I am very happy at Bain sih. Kenapa? Karena for me personally, gue nggak suka kerja yang sama klik doang gitu. Gue suka kerja sama teman. Gue suka kerja tuh kayak a lot of personal relationship. Doesn't mean that I didn't get that in McKinsey. Tapi Bain itu karena office-nya masih yang tergolong cukup kecil, so it's just like family, right? You know everyone. So gue nggak bilang ini kayak startup, tapi kalau startup kayak ketika employee-nya masih kecil, organisasi masih kecil, you are part of the company gitu. But dan banyak inisiatifnya Bain yang membuat gue kayak part of the company. Oh okay, you join recruiting, you join. Kalau bahkan sebelum gue join, ada yang join komitinya renovation and office moving. Karena Bain pindah office. I mean, I know it's extra work, tapi it feels like, gue bisa nih ikutan jadi kayak renovation atau kayak office moving committee gitu. Thinking, kira-kira di office tuh lu perlu appliance-nya apa aja sih? Menurut gue jadi kayak seru. Kalau buat gue sih itu seru gitu. Tapi I'm saying adalah, I think ketiga-tiganya, kalau if I refer back, kenapa I join consulting, exposure to different industry and function. Same. I think this three will give you different industry, exposure to different industry, exposure to your client. Same. I think they will give you exposure to the same client. The big clients, CEO of big clients gitu ya. Working with a client atau collaborating with client. I think those three also give you the same exposure. Cuma ya beda clientnya. McKinsey is well known for serving certain types of client, BCG beda lagi, Bain beda lagi. Jadi kalau gue sih merasa from each of the experience I learned something. It's just a different kind of learning. Dan I think just to close this answer a bit, kenapa tadi gue bilang different phase of my life really important of shaping my experience? Karena of course ketika gue di UI, ketika mungkin bahasa Inggris gue juga gak selancar dan sebagus sekarang learning. Jadi my experience in BCG and the first few months at McKinsey itu tough for me. Yang lu mesti catch up tuh banyak gitu. Lu mesti catch up language, mesti catch up
that's true.
Working in the international culture, be comfortable with feedback, framework problem solving-nya. Jadi kayak catch up banyak. Nah, of course kayak jadi stressful dong. Kayak you need to do extra work gitu. Well, at Bain, first of all, I've worked consulting before, so I know how it is. I know maybe in a very high level manufacturing prosesnya kayak gimana sih dari ngomong sama klien, minta data dan sebagainya. Second, gue juga ada MBA, which is menurut gue another experience juga. I'm comfortable with international culture. I'm much more comfortable in speaking or presenting in English. Simple as that sih, and it makes my Bain experience, I would say, much less stressful than my McKinsey experience.
Got it. Wow. Thanks, Steph, for answering the question. Tapi yang mau gue highlight juga adalah betapa lo menggambarkan bahwa jawaban ke pertanyaan itu sangat kontekstual, right? Karena it really depends dengan situasi lo seperti apa, kliennya siapa, right? Makanya menurut gue kadang-kadang gue pun maybe borderline annoyed ketika orang tuh nanya, tapi sebenarnya pertanyaannya itu adalah untuk answering the question for them gitu. Karena kenapa? Karena kayak we are all different gitu kan. Misalnya kayak mungkin buat Steph yang paling cocok at this point in his career adalah consulting gitu. Jadi kayak ketika gue nanya, menurut lu gue masuk mana? Kayak it's actually a very bad question karena Steph and I are two different people gitu kan. Justru kayak menurut gue the goal of recording podcast like this adalah untuk belajar, given Stefanus tuh lagi at that stage of his life, makanya dia bisa lebih enjoy. Makanya menurut gue kayak sebenarnya kita bisa kok membuat keputusan on our own dengan belajar dari cara orang lain membuat keputusan, tapi nggak necessarily meng-copy paste keputusan tersebut. Right?
Betul. Maksudnya gue juga nggak bisa bilang gitu, oh Bain is the best. Kalau misalnya lo masuk terus tiba-tiba kliennya kurang inspirational, leadershipnya juga kurang oke, that happen kan. Gue juga nggak bisa bilang semua tim dan project di Bain itu juga semuanya will be enjoyable. Even your definition of enjoyable and sustainable
very
will
different.
Be different.
Exactly.
Jadi ya benar-benar kontekstual banget, depends on what you are looking for. Depends on many things gitu. Depends on how you define and your expectation of joining consulting.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Nah, sekarang let's be real, Steph. So I think we've talked a lot about consulting, about what's fun, what's not so fun working in consulting. Nah, gue sebenarnya pengen nanya sama lo gitu kan, kayak when people see your LinkedIn, itu kan udah pasti kayak wah gila, this is a very successful person. So what are some of the low moments in your career that maybe not many people know about?
I think mungkin yang orang gak banyak tahu adalah, and this is related to my decision untuk ke MBA sih.
Okay.
First of all, orang bakal, ketika gue mau MBA gitu ya, waktu di McKinsey, ya ada beberapa orang bilang ke gue, lagi lo MBA kayak orang.
Exactly.
A lot of people got into MBA because they want to get consulting.
Yes.
Yeah, terus sekarang ada consulting, apalagi MBA gitu.
Yeah.
It's like the MBA of itself, which partly true for academic wise ya. Menurut gue kayak a lot of things actually I learned like consulting. Jadi sebenarnya ketika gue tarik lagi, gue itu masuk consulting bukan karena yes exposure dan sebagainya, tapi gue tahu itu ketika gue masuk consulting gitu kan. Sebenarnya kalau gue tarik lagi, jadi I was inspired lah with one of my uncle back then. He graduated from Harvard. HBS, MBA.
Wow.
And then he found his success in life. Jadi I was very inspired gitu kayak, oh I want to be like him. Kayak gue ngefans lah. And it was back in junior high. Kayak gue masih SMP gitu. Jadi kayak gue ngefansnya kayak, oh Harvard keren, udah that's it. Jadi, tapi that's my dream. Gitu. Dari SMP, SMA, orang-orang nanya, okay, what's your plan? Iya, gue lulus kuliah 2-3 tahun terus gue mau Harvard. Kayak that's very clear in my mind. Ini buat SMP, SMA gitu, gue udah punya pikiran kayak gitu. Which, ya udah, gue gak tahu it's good or bad. Kuliah dan sebagainya, ketika kuliah gue juga langsung bilang, gue mau kerja dulu, asal gue mau Harvard. Tapi jadi, consulting was never in the picture.
Oh.
Dan gue mau Harvard gitu. Tapi setelah gue mau lulus, ternyata, to get into Harvard, one of the easiest and closest way adalah get into consulting. So I tried consulting. Jadi kayak my end goal back then was not consulting, but actually Harvard. So that's the context. Of course, after a few years in consulting, and then I left consulting for a job in the government. Jadi gue apply the top 3 schools that I feel I really want to get into Harvard Stanford. I also applied to the scholarship LPDP. Tapi gue tolak semuanya. Harvard, Stanford, Wharton semua gue tolak, LPDP gue juga gak dapet. It was my low moment sih, karena gue gak dapet LPDP, kayaknya selang 2 minggu gue gak dapet Wharton dulu, terus gue gak dapet Harvard, terus gue gak dapet. Jadi kayak every 2 weeks or every few weeks kayak I got a bad news gitu. And these are the things that I really wanted in life. Yang kayak I designed my life to get into that spot. I designed my life gitu loh. Mau masuk consulting tuh bukan buat consulting ya dulu gitu.
Okay.
Which is raw motivation, I know.
Yeah.
Tapi that's my low moments. Tapi I'm glad that I experienced that karena gue jadi kayak tampar-tampar gitu kayak. Sebenarnya tuh mungkin yang lu mau tuh bukan Harvard nih. Jadi gue mulai do a lot of reflection. Kenapa sih gue pengen Harvard? Kenapa sih gue harus stick ke Harvard? It's something that you dream about kalau masih junior high. Ketika you don't have all this context, lu nggak tahu MBA school yang mana yang cocok buat lo. Jadi ketika lulus saya Harvard, gue juga reflecting dan kenapa gue masuk Harvard? Ya itu juga ya. Dari SMP gue merasa kayak my uncle was there and gue ngefans gitu. Of course it's very silly kan. Harusnya gue punya much stronger reason on why and how Harvard can help me gitu. Jadi setelah gue reflect, memang kayaknya yang gue mau tuh mungkin bukan Harvardnya, but something else. Jadi ketika I did that reflection, it helped me to build a much better essay, a much better reasons on why I want to do it. Gitu. Agak panjang jawabannya, tapi intinya my low moments adalah ketika gue ditolak ke semua mimpi gue waktu gue masuk MBA.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks for sharing that. I know that not a lot of people kayak are openly sharing that, so gue sangat appreciate lo share ini.
Yes.
I can feel, maksudnya kayak justru kayak itu kan kayak the finish line yang lo pengen gitu kan.
Benar.
It's not even consulting, it's Harvard, tapi you didn't get it. And again, itu kan juga kayak ya banyak faktornya, faktor eksternal juga kan. Biarpun kita ada juga can play some role, misalnya we can write better essay, right? But yeah, wow.
Low moment. Tapi I think you learn so much in your low moments. I mean, as long as you have the right support system, I think you can learn a lot from that. So I'm actually glad that I experienced and I passed that low moment.
Yeah.
So if I experience another low moment in life, I mean, just one experience.
Yeah, that's true. Nah, terus gue penasaran just to double click on that, right? Kayak, I think what happens with emotion adalah kadang-kadang kita tuh overestimate how long it will last. For example, misalnya kita aiming for promotion, atau kita aiming to get like a dream job, kita kira kita bakal senang. Tapi mungkin senangnya, gak tau ya, in my case, gue senang-senang kayak gitu kayak seminggu. Mungkin ya sehari atau berapa lama gitu. Kan habis itu ya udah kayak gitu kan. Nah, gue penasaran deh sama lo ketika, is that also the same thing with rejection kayak kasus tadi, atau sebenarnya nggak, in that case itu kayak it haunts you for quite some time?
I think the bad thing on my case adalah, I mean, if you know me by now, I'm a get goer. Kan? Gue kayak, gue mau sesuatu, I'll get it. I'll work my ass off to get it. Jadi waktu itu it was one of the failures gitu. Sebelumnya ya, gue mau sesuatu, I'll work on it and I'll get it gitu.
Yeah.
And actually it's a good reminder for me. Gak semua kali coy yang lu mau, lu kerja lu bisa dapet gitu. Okay, there are more things. So for me it was quite some time, especially the first one.
Yeah.
Which is the Harvard rejection. Tapi after that one, the second one and the third one actually much easier. Much easier than I thought. Dan another thing, a good learning for me ya, kadang-kadang gue tuh, karena gue, I'm not bragging, tapi karena gue selalu dapet apa yang gue mau, because I'm a get goer person, I tend to be playing in the comfort zone. Oh, gue mau yang aman-aman aja deh, yang gue bisa dapet. Jadi bukan berarti gue dapat semua karena gue emang deserve dapat, tapi mungkin karena gue emang playing in the comfort zone. I don't dare myself enough untuk ada yang lebih tinggi nih gitu. Kalau ada ketinggian gue masa lah, gue kayak nggak bisa dapat. Gue suka playing safe gitu jadinya. Dulu sering kayak gitu, sering playing safe. Tapi karena gue takut of rejections. Tapi karena gue udah ada rejections itu, actually that really helped me. Jadi untuk sekarang to challenge myself even more. Oh ini ketinggian, it's okay. The worst thing that can happen adalah I get rejected. So be comfortable with rejection is, I know, as hard as the first time you got it. But after that you get comfortable and then after that you can learn a lot from it.
Yeah, totally. Even dari tadi lo jelasin, gue masih merasakan gitu kan, bahwa kayak it was like so painful I think at that time. Right, tapi dari penjelasan lo aja kayak I can feel kayak how much you've learned from that experience.
Right, yeah. For me it's a very humbling experience.
Yeah.
Jadi dulu mungkin gue kurang humble kayak gitu.
Bisa jadi. Bisa jadi.
I agree. Karena ya you always get what you want gitu, which is not good. Maksudnya even from me to myself, gue bilang, hey, this is not a good learning, or this is not a good. Kalau sebagai orang tua, this is not how you should raise your kids. Always get what they want. You should teach them something, and then I think life teach me something, and I really appreciate it.
Wow. Thanks, Steph, for sharing that. I think a lot more people should know bahwa di balik semua CV yang wow gitu, there are always kayak some bitterness or kayak some rejections yang gak banyak orang lihat. But of course, all of us can learn from it.
Ada banyak orang yang julid aja sih juga.
Cool. Nah, recently ini gue akan agak shift gear ya, karena tadi kita udah ngebahas tentang karir lo gitu kan. I think recently you launch like a weekend project yang bernama Career Lab. Mungkin lo bisa share ke kita nih kayak sebenarnya itu apa dan kayak apa sih yang bikin lo ngerjain itu?
Mungkin gue akan jawab yang nomor 2 dulu biar easier to follow, right?
Boleh.
Jadi back in McKinsey gue join Walai juga. Jadi dari sejak gue lulus kayaknya I got a lot of experience, atau maksudnya gue beberapa kali dipercaya untuk nge-screen CV, either for organizations atau for Walai program for example. Dan one thing that I feel back then adalah CV-nya mahasiswa di Indonesia itu sebenarnya bagus-bagus. Tapi banyak yang mungkin either karena language barrier atau karena as simple as mereka nggak tahu what goods look like, jadi susah gitu untuk meet the standard, for example. Even ketika gue balik ngeliat CV gue yang gue buat apply buat McKinsey, it's not even in standard format. Jadi gue juga kan, wow, bahkan gue dulu juga, it's semi-standard lah. It's not like yang ada foto dan sebagainya, tapi it's not the standard that we want. Gitu. Jadi menurut gue ada gap di situ. Tapi gue belum ngerasain sampai gimana banget. Sampai gue ke LBS itu, MBA. They have a very good career center service. They will really support you to build CV. Bahkan mereka ada workshop untuk how to find your ikigai, something like that, which is very interesting. Tapi jadi kayak I wish dulu ketika gue kuliah gue juga ini gitu, a lot of support on career service, a lot of support even for building my CV. Apalagi gue not from, we are not a native English speaker. No matter what, menurut gue CV kita nggak bakal sampai sebagus yang benar-benar native English. Vocabulary is super rich. So I found that first, I found the pain points. Ada nih masuk-masuk ini yang menurutku bagus-bagus banget CV-nya, tapi yang nggak tahu bahkan formatnya atau banyak error. They don't know how to put their achievement in there. Jadi nggak shine aja gitu.
Yeah.
Sedangkan gue lihat kayak ada best practice-nya ketika gue MBA. Jadi gue merasa, I should bring this to Indo and help these Indonesian students to be able to compete with the international students juga. Gitu. Karena they're as good or even better gitu juga kan, karena they have all the Indonesian contact juga. Tapi kadang-kadang kalau ngeliat CV side by side, ya kalah gitu kadang-kadang ya. Atau lumayan sering kalah gitu. Akhirnya gue gak tahu in personnya gimana. But CV is the first gate for you to get interview or to get into the company, so it's very important.
Yeah.
Jadi ya, gue mulai project kecil ini untuk bantuin undergrads atau teman-teman yang lagi mau pindah dari satu pekerjaan lain dan mau memperbaiki atau memperkuat CV-nya gitu sih.
Wow, I think that's a real problem. And thanks for kayak helping Indonesia to solve that gitu. Karena I think generally kalau gue bisa add my 2 cents on CV, right? I think generally, dan gue mungkin generalisasi di sini. Generally, I don't think we are comfortable to sell our accomplishment or sell our work, right?
Betul.
Jadi kayak ketika kita ngejelasin sesuatu di CV, I've screened so many CVs in my life. I've written like lot juga karena gue juga sering-sering apply kerjaan gitu. Kayak sometimes tuh kayak ketika kita perlu menjual apa yang kita lakukan, apa hasil yang kita accomplish, kayak kadang-kadang nggak tahu ya. I still have that belief kayak gimana ya how to explain this? Kan ini hal kecil kayak I don't think that's great. Padahal kayak sebenarnya I don't know. I feel that kayak a lot of people are really good in marketing their work gitu kan.
Betul. Kalau ngelihat CV-CV yang misalnya dari US students gitu ya, they are really good at marketing their CV. Of course, maybe kita nggak bisa. Kalau misalnya kita di 0 gitu ya, mungkin mereka tuh 100 gitu.
Yeah.
We don't need to go into 100 in marketing, in doing the marketing of our CV gitu. Tapi ya, bisa in the middle. At least tuh nggak jauh banget lah gitu. Kalau nggak, jomplang banget. Kita simple as deskripsiin what did we do. Dan mereka belum fokus on the accomplishment and the achievement on the work that they did. Jadi ya, we need to find somewhere in between. Karena menurut gue kalau HR-nya atau recruiter-nya baca yang kayak US CV semua juga jadi mungkin orang-orang rasa lebay lu kayaknya nggak bisa segitu juga gitu kan.
Betul.
Jadi kayak maybe somewhere in between will really help to boost that.
Yeah. And I will highly recommend kayak anybody especially yang lagi looking for jobs karena all the sympathy for the people yang lagi cari kerjaan saat ini karena I believe situasi ekonomi juga lagi susah dan a lot of people are unemployed. Jadi kayak any opportunities yang bisa bikin lo stand out di tumpukan-tumpukan CV, take it. I think Career Lab is way to go.
Thank you, Fred.
Now maybe just to wrap up and a final question, and I always ask a lot of my guests, most of my guests this question gitu. Mungkin tadi lo udah jawab sebagian, tapi kayak if you can, solidify it further, what is your most profound career lesson on the first 5 years of your career?
My first profound career lesson.
Yeah.
I think one, people always have feedback to you for yourself. And that's related to, so people always have feedback. It really depends on you which feedback that you want to work on.
Yeah.
Of course, lo bisa bilang juga review kayak, tapi kan lo kerja gitu sama orang. Yeah, of course, you always need to work on the feedback. Yes. Tapi another point I want to make adalah kayak there's always like outside of the work. If the work make you bagus kalau feedbacknya bagus gitu, tapi kalau feedbacknya membuat lu jadi orang yang impatient atau membuat kayak misalnya feedbacknya lu harus lebih gencar men-chase client misalnya for data. Maybe I'll work on that, tapi to some extent that I'm comfortable. Tapi kalau misalnya that will make me an impatient person, even affecting my personal life, I will not do it. Gitu. Menurut gue kayak take job as a job and life as a life. And these two is not going together. Maksud gue kayak nggak bisa your job affecting your life and your life affecting your job juga memang. Rational. Tapi people always have feedback. Dan jangan pernah demotivated karena gue kayak nggak bagus-bagus ya. No way man. Kayak nggak bakal pernah in any point in your life people have no feedback for you. People always have feedback. It really depends on how you receive it and how you take it forward. I mean that's to maintain your sanity juga sih. Even kayak bos lu juga pasti dapat feedback dari bosnya. Bosnya dapat feedback juga dari siapa? Dari atas langit masih ada langit. Jadi kayak people always get feedback in any level, in any age. So take it with a grain of salt.
Wow, thanks. That's so profound. Bahwa kayak one, we always get feedback, and number two, have like a filter mechanism for feedback, right? Because itu datang dari luar, tapi you know like who you are, and apa yang mau lo kompromis atau enggak. Karena if kayak what I learned from you, Steph, if the feedback makes you a person that who is not who you are, then you don't always have to copy paste that 100% gitu kan. You can still listen and emulate, tapi kalau itu mengubah diri lo menjadi orang yang lo nggak pengen, let's say in your case, misalnya your example adalah jadi orang yang impatient and you don't have to do it. Right?
Yeah, of course kalau misalnya, and again, just to caveat this, kalau you really want a job, you really want to work on it, then you need to work on it. But just be mindful and take a conscious decision. Okay, it's affecting my personal life, but I really want a job, so I will work on it anyway. But it's a conscious decision daripada kayak it's just affecting your personal life, like tanpa lu sadar.
Wow, thanks Steph. I really enjoy the conversation. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch. Yay, thank you.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Thanks man.
Thank you banget ya udah dengerin episode kita kali ini. Kalau lo suka sama konten ini dan merasa kalau lebih banyak orang perlu mendengarnya, please share this to your network. Karena itu akan membantu mereka untuk menemukan konten ini dan mentransformasi hidup mereka. Jangan lupa juga untuk follow kita di Instagram, karena setiap harinya kita akan post bite-sized content untuk merefresh apa yang teman-teman sudah pelajari di podcast ini. Check out our Instagram @followyourflow.id. Terakhir, ada free course di website kita, yaitu tentang setting up your minimum viable priority, di mana lo bisa memahami prioritas hidup lo dan cara yang lebih konkret untuk mencapainya. Yuk, dapatkan akses di course-nya dengan check out our website di www.followyourflow.id.